What's up, people of the Mojave Wasteland? This run was suggested to me by a fan not too long ago, and it really caught my interest. We've already run FNV as a regulator, and here we are again, only this time our regulator is a named character. Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty behind our favorite sheriff's reasoning for being this far west, let's take a look at what we got at our disposal this run. Sheriff's Duster, Sheriff's Hat, and the trusty old Chinese AR. Now, in my challenge runs, we're allowed to use any variant of weapons available to us, and this run's no exception. Thanks to the awesome Courier Stash Style Talent Pack, link to the mod and credit to the creator, as well as all mods I use are in the description below as always, we can in fact use a variant of the Chinese AR. And because of this awesome weapon, I definitely like this being our one and only weapon for the run. The Chinese AR on its own is solid in mid to early game in Fallout 3, and our variant, the hardened AR, can be even better out here in the Mojave Wasteland, courtesy of different ammo types. While our offense is a bit limited in terms of both range and having no melee, our weapon is an absolute death machine as long as we can keep the thing loaded. Sheriff's Hat gives +1 to perception, always nice. Speaking of special, we have a pretty standard score this time, and I'm totally cool with what we've got. With 5-It, we're not locked out of Educated or Comprehension. Those two perks are always major bonuses for me. This is a set of special we can definitely work with. All that out of the way, it's time for one of my favorite parts of every Fallout video, setting the scene. As you're seeing on screen, Sim starts off in Primm. I figure that's a good place for his adventure to begin. Life in the capital wasteland is becoming more and more dangerous since the death of Owen and Sarah Lyons, leading to the Lyons Pride devolving, which was great news for the likes of raiders and super mutants, but not so much for the inhabitants of the capital wasteland. Wanting a better life for his son, Hardin, Sims caught wind of a new location that had been recently discovered, Union Station. Apparently this place leads to, quote-unquote, somewhere better and way hotter, but many settlers, be it Megaton or other locations, largely dismissed this as an urban legend. Sims, however, did not. With a heavy heart, he took his son and departed from Megaton, living the same life, doing the same thing day in, day out was getting to our protagonist. Surely this isn't the kind of life he wants for his son, a now 14-year-old boy. Before leaving, however, he ensures a peaceful transition of power and works out a deal with his fellow residents to allow the Regulators to use Megaton as a sort of base of operations. Sonora Cruz takes Sims' place as sheriff, and she purchased his now former house, giving Sims a fair bit of caps to take with him on the road. And to answer some minor details before moving to the Mojave Wasteland, Colin Moriarty had an accident, so Gob runs the bar. The Lone Wanderer's tale ended by sacrificing themselves at Project Purity, and it was Sarah Lyons who led the charge against the remnants of the Enclave Station at Adams Air Force Base. Cool? Cool. After taking care of business in Megaton on his end, Sims traveled with a band of explorers, his years of combat experience coming in clutch the entire journey. Not only was the existence of Union Station a reality, but the train ride there was unlike anything he or his son had ever experienced before, and this was just the start of the journey. Freeside, while nothing special, certainly was warmer in terms of climate than Megaton. Not wanting those dangerous slums to be where he settles down, Sims continued with his son to adventure with the same band of explorers, all eager to settle down somewhere in this strange and far more civilized wasteland. Our ex-sheriff settled on Primm, and in this timeline, it didn't take him long to become appointed as deputy, replacing Beagle. Lucas and Hardin arrived in Primm about 2 months before the events of Fallout New Vegas. Both of them were heartily welcomed by the residents, and most certainly by the now-deceased sheriff. That's not to say that Beagle's out of the picture, however. He's a sort of junior deputy, and as such has a bit of an easier time in his role. That is, until the Powder Gangers escaped from the NCRCF and made everyone's life in Primm miserable. With the Nashes watching over Hardin, Sims takes it upon himself to go after these escaped convicts. For our grizzled old Megaton veteran, this is but a walk in the park. Sims has dealt with far more dangerous individuals back home. Sims has also come to like Primm quite a bit, certainly a step in the right direction for his ultimate goal. As made clear through the Bison Steve, let's focus a bit on what Lucas wants. He wants a better future for his son, and this simple and very admirable goal, well, let's just say this is going to be a bit tougher than our ex-sheriff realizes, but it's a challenge he's willing to accept with open arms. Sim's story isn't one about heroism, becoming famous, or anything grandiose. He simply wants Hardin to grow up in a safer world. He's the quintessential dad. Exterminating the convicts is a small but important step in that direction, but in order for Primm to truly be safe, it needs a new sheriff, and unfortunately for Beagle, in this timeline, he was already dead by the time Sims was able to get to him. Down a sheriff and a deputy, Primm is on its last leg. They can hold out in the short term, but Sims really needs to expedite the whole appoint a new sheriff goal of his. While Sims has plenty of experience in this field of work, he's learned a lot about the Mojave Wasteland and the powers contesting for dominance over the area. And while he can certainly keep Primm safe, his family-oriented goal has become something of a higher calling. Even Lucas's son knows that he's never surrendered his childhood fantasy of being a cowboy, and the Mojave Wasteland is perfect for living out that little dream. Perfect for one final adventure. Born in 2236, by the events of Fallout New Vegas, our protagonist is 45 years old. Certainly not an old man, but he is beyond his prime. Yet, he's never felt younger, and he'll need that youthful vitality and spirit for not just aiding Primm by enlisting a new sheriff, but to rid the Mojave of scum. He may not be in the capital wasteland anymore, but he is a regulator for life. Sims' search for a new sheriff takes him to Novak, a settlement he had passed by while en route to Primm. He likes this area, and while he's around, might as well aid the locals. It's around this time when he starts to catch wind of a horrible tragedy that struck near Good Springs. Apparently, a courier was robbed and murdered by what's described as a gangster in a checkered suit, being accompanied by a pair of great cons. Good Springs is another settlement that Sims really likes, and between this and this mystery murder being the catalyst for the trouble in Primm, Lucas takes a mental note to track this guy down and show what it means to face the wrath of wasteland justice. Before that, though, we gotta deal with a pesky nightkin who's been stalking a ranch owner's Brahmin. Now, I remind you, because it bears repeating from what happened in my Preston run, that this nightkin does have a minigun. While wearing light armor, this nightkin should be able to shred us, but apparently he thinks that running away to fight another day is the correct course of action. He also does the favor for Manny, but since we show that in a lot of our runs, we're gonna cut past that this time. Sims' journey further north does bring him to the Crimson Caravan, and a mission from Alice McClafferty results in our favorite ex-sheriff gaining the ideal ally as he gets ready to take on the powder gangers of the NCRCF. It's Cass, and that cowgirl get-up right away appeals to our protagonist. Having a partner who knows the roads of the Mojave and looks cool while doing it definitely made Sims fanboy a little bit internally. And even better, Cass is pretty darn good with that shotgun of hers. In the short time they've known each other up to this point, Sims can tell that she shares a similar view of justice to him, and that could come in very handy, very much so. Unfortunately, she's not the sheriff type, but that's what he's here at the NCRCF for. Myers, a man in prison for vigilantism, is the perfect candidate in Sims' eyes. Yes, he's wearing the powder ganger uniform, but he's not actually with them, as evidenced by the fact that he doesn't help them in the fight. And I figure that Sims tolerates the likes of Jericho, a former raider and a man who isn't shy about being scummy in Megaton, so opting to appoint Myers as sheriff is most definitely feasible. This was a very dangerous mission, though, must be said, because check out how close we got to losing Cass. I mean, what was that, 10 hit points we had left? If she got hit one more time, she'd have died. And speaking of the powder gangers, and Good Springs brought that up earlier too, Sims, well, he's not going to leave any loose ends, so making his way back to Good Springs after appointing Myers as sheriff for Primm, it's one step closer to taking out the powder gangers and neutralizing them as a threat here in the Mojave Wasteland. I'm pretty sure we did this exact same thing in our FNV Regulator run months ago, but now it's Sims' turn to get in on the fun of taking out the powder gangers. Compared to what's to come, though, they are nothing but small fries. And hey, once we get back to Primm, we can officially transfer power over to Myers, making him officially the sheriff of Primm. I think Sims' son is going to be in real good hands while he goes out and takes care of business, Regulator style. Well, there is one more location with powder gangers, but we'll go there later. Next up, we're taking out the Fiends, one of the biggest threats in the Mojave Wasteland to anybody who's not on their side. Now, we know that Sims has a wealth of experience against raiders. In fact, he ends up killing the leader of the raiders who had set up at Springville just outside of Megaton. I think Bopo was his name. Even so, though, the Fiends are on a whole different level, so Sims, being older and wiser than many who would attempt this sort of thing, is perfectly fine with enlisting the aid of the 1st Recon to help take out Driver Nephi. We're gonna go after all of the Fiend leaders, of course, because we usually do in our runs, and because the Fiends make it onto our challenge runs a lot, as in almost all of them. I figure we're gonna be good showing off Driver Nephi. I think last time I showed Violet and Cook, so pivoting back to good old Nephi here. Also, don't forget to talk to Lieutenant Corbett after you're done here, that way you can get the 300 bottle caps off of him. That is in addition to what you get from Major Daughtry. And just like in our Preston Garvey run, our protagonist, in my opinion, would side with the NCR and have no intention of letting the cons escape. Given Sim's history with Raiders, he's definitely going to be going after them at some point. Between his experiences with Raiders back home and as well as what he's learned about the great cons since he's been here, I just cannot see someone like Lucas Sims giving them so much as a second thought. That regulator vigilantism really coming out in spades here, and fortunately it coincides with the NCR's agenda. Lieutenant Mondera is under orders to kill the cons with the hostages being considered expendable. And it's little details like this that Sims keeps in the back of his mind as he continues to work with the NCR. Little blooper during this part of the run where I thought I untied the hostage, but picked the wrong option instead. I got a little chuckle out of that. But you know the weird thing about this is that we don't hit vilified with the cons, and I have absolutely no idea why. If you've got the answer, feel free to lay it on me, because as far as I can see, we're riddling them with bullets. And correct me if I'm wrong, but if our companion kills somebody, don't we lose reputation as well? I mean, in no way had NCR troopers helping us out, but Gemini. After we're done dealing with the great cons, we're going to go ahead and help First Sergeant Astor, and we're going to deal with Cottonwood Cove the way that we normally do. Release the barrels, and away they go. Although taking this extreme measure, while certainly in character for a vigilante like Sims, does come with a hefty price. He'll never know about the innocents who lost their lives down there. But hey, we're not done dealing with the Legion just yet. At this point, we've cleaned out the Legion raiding camp where the Powder Gangers were captured. Usually we have Boone with us here, because it's fitting for him and it earns us a history point if we free the hostages. But Sims, while he did help Boone with tracking down the culprit responsible for selling his wife, he left business at that because, in his mind, while he would certainly like someone like Boone at his side, he is too important for Novak's safety. So in this run, we didn't get him as a companion at all. And hey, it's fun to bring someone new, and Cass certainly doesn't mind laying the beat down on some Legion goons. I do think it's appropriate to bring a woman considering the Legion's stance on them. Not only that, but Cass is a liquor-slinging badass, so it's just double the ouch for the legionary stationed here. As usual, there's nothing too much to worry about here. They're pretty easy, including Dead Sea. And we're not done beating down the Legion just yet, because we're going to circle on over to Novak, and what kind of confused me here is that Wolpez, although we're vilified with the Legion, he didn't attack us here. I didn't know that he still would talk to you. Interesting choice in tactics for the lead Frumentari of Kaisar's Legion, but hey, you could say that Wolpez was making his first real choice right there. Now, as Sims has been working with the NCR, initially I think he would kind of like them, but that's only at first. As he gets to work with them, sees the incompetence, the corruption, the overstretched, all that not good stuff, I think that Sims would like them as an ally, but the more he's working with them, the more he's realizing they're not really the answer he's looking for as far as securing a healthy, prosperous future for his son, as well as the next generation in general. And Sims's thoughts about the NCR come to fruition as when he's helping out the Kings and Freeside, it's pretty clear to him that although he doesn't like Pacer at all, absolutely sees Sims disliking him a lot. He is going to put that difference aside to make sure that the NCR's grip over Freeside is loosened to the point where they have no real influence there anymore. The NCR squatters, led by Major Elizabeth Kieran, really don't stand a chance against the combined might of Lucas Sims and Cass. Now, one faction I do see Sims liking wholesale are the followers of the Apocalypse. I like to think that he encountered these guys when he entered Freeside for the very first time. He definitely would have liked someone like them back in the capital Wasteland. What a difference those guys would make out east. And while Cass and Sims have been getting along quite well, he has become privy to her issue, and well, if Preston Garvey, because we did this exact same thing in the last run, if Preston is thinking we're gonna go the vigilante route, Sims is most definitely gonna go that route. And I do like the idea that Cass is the one who puts the idea into Sims' head to pose as a guard. Initially, it's to gain intel, but once Sims sees a rather shady individual coming forward and talking about wanting to check the store out, we know that Sims has history with a certain individual who had a, shall we say, certain fixation with explosives, so 4 years later, he knows what to look out for. And thanks to those AP rounds, Simon stood absolutely no chance. All that's left is to take out Alice McClafferty over at the Crimson Caravan, and Well, she's a lot less guarded than the Van Graffs, but with no little easy way to get around taking them out, we gotta get our own hands dirty, and that's the Regulator way right there, bringing justice to people who think that they're above the law. I like to think that Cass and Lucas would like each other quite a bit, not romantically or anything, but definitely they would be good friends. Incidentally, all of the actions in which Lucas has taken up to this point is going to end up making life quite pleasant for the smaller caravans here in the Mojave Wasteland. Canterbury Commons would be proud of you there, Sheriff. And little does our favorite sheriff know that his actions not only are bettering the settlements here in the Mojave, but he's caught the attention of quite the influential figure. Conflicted on his thoughts regarding the NCR and obviously wanting to stop the Legion at all costs, Sims was at a bit of a crossroads on what to do. That is, until Mr. House made his presence known to Lucas, and because it would never occur to Sims to pursue something akin to an independent route. While he has some leadership experience, his role in Megaton is a wee bit different from what it would take to govern the Mojave, and considering his position and the fact that he doesn't know Yes Man exists, that option is just right out the door. Robert House, though, having a connection to a man as powerful as him, yeah, that's definitely got Sims' attention. I'll get back to my thoughts on Sims working for a house, but I do know they would start off on a fantastic note. After all, Sims has been wanting to hunt down Benny and dish out some Wastelander justice. And unlike with Mr. Burke 4 years ago, he's not going to be slow on the trigger. He gives a silent thanks to the Lone Wanderer for saving his hide back then, because none of what he's been up to at this point would be possible if not for that intervention. Now, before we pay a trip to the Securitron bunker on Fortification Hill, where we'll inevitably have to encounter Kaisar's Legion once again, we're gonna go back and make sure that the Powder Gangers are wiped off the face of the Mojave's map here. I always like runs where we come to Vault 19 and clean out the Powder Gangers, which is quite a few of them. But in runs like this, where they're a big part of the narrative, it's always worth showing, and this little area we're holed up in is absolutely perfect for taking them out. I have been absolutely hoarding my armor-piercing rounds the entire time, and there's a reason for that. This battle being one of them, because a couple of these convicts have metal armor. With armor-piercing rounds, they go down real fast, and even better, upon the conclusion of this great gauntlet, we do level up, and our science will hit 55, and thanks to that, and comprehension, and a Programmer's Digest magazine, we're gonna have a scot-free trip to the Securitron bunker. Do you see why I like that perk so darn much? And the funny thing, too, is that a good buddy of mine actually recommended that I take that. I was streaming a run for him casually on Discord many moons ago, it feels like now, and he suggested comprehension to me. I was like, okay, sure, why not? Ever since then, been a main part of my builds. Absolutely love that perk. And of course, before we go there, we're taking out the Great Khans, and I mean, considering the weapon that we have and how frail they are, they're not even worth talking about. Take out Papa Khan, take out Regis, then the Khans are neutralized at Hoover Dam, but we're gonna kill them all anyway, just like last time. Now, the great thing about wiping out Vault 19 and Red Rock Canyon is that both places are absolutely stacked with loot. Unfortunately, I did kill the Great Khan armor, best waifu in the game, but, you know, for a run like this, you gotta stay in character, unfortunately. And since we're here, no obligatory mention of the Securitron bunker with a 75 in science, courtesy of Comprehension plus Programmer's Digest and our base 55 science, voila! Reporting back to Mr. House, he wants us to make contact with the Boomers of Nellis, and that's just perfect because, well, turns out there's another little playful scamp whom Lucas Sims has been wanting to pay a visit to. We know him, he's no stranger to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. Say hi to Joe, J-boy! And why is he on our Regulator protagonist's naughty list? Well, trying to gamble and send people to their deaths and stealing their bottle caps, yeah, that's gonna earn you a nice cold dish of Wastelander vigilantism. Also, those free 427 bottle caps are pretty nice incentive. But yeah, we help out the Boomers as usual. Nothing new to show here, although when he's giving scrap metal to Jack, he does think of his old pal Walter back in Megaton. Kinda wonders how that old guy's doing. I do think that while Sims is out here living out his cowboy fantasy, making the Mojave a better place and getting a better future for his son, he would, deep down, really miss Megaton. I mean, it's home, man. And because we're not able to sneak our firearm in order to deal with Big Sal and Nero, well, just steal a pool ball from the table and that'll trigger both Big Sal and Nero to attack you. Usually it takes more than one, but this time I stole one and, well, you see it on screen now, they're already after us. And I have to say, Nero and Big Sal survived for quite a while this time around. I feel like it takes a lot less time for them to get taken out here, but they took out a couple of Omerta thugs more than they usually do. One of these days, I have to pass that speech check with Kachina, which we could do. Our speech is high enough. I usually just kind of go by it. But hey, if we do pass that 80 speech check, maybe next time Kachina will help us. We're gonna try that out. Next up, obligatory mention of the Brotherhood of Steel bunker, and I did stop by here earlier. I was doing a little bit of questing with Veronica, and no, she's not with us, which means that she's going to survive, and she's not going to leave our party because she's up at the Lucky 38, and as long as we don't talk to her, she'll remain in our party. It's kind of similar to Fallout 4, where if you go against the Brotherhood of Steel and you have Dance as a settler, he will remain a settler, but you can never recruit or even speak to him again. Now here's something I bet our good sheriff never thought he would see and be a part of: protecting the president of a foreign country. And fortunately for us, we have invested a fair bit into repair. At this point, we don't even need a Fixin' Things magazine to buff us by plus 20. Our base repairs enough to take out that bomb. Give it to Ranger Grant, they safely get President Kimball out, and by safely, I mean a Ranger gets dome shot, but the president's okay and is taken off in that vertibird. I think that constitutes the president of the new California Republic being safe. And hey, speaking of safe, El Dorado substation, we go on in, barge in, install the override chip. The NCR troopers, I guess, just don't care. And I'll tell you right now that our armor-piercing rounds, I've been saving them exactly for the final battle here. It's not just the Kenturians, but even the Prime Legionaries, and I believe the Veteran Legionaries as well, take more damage from AP rounds. So as we make our way through Hoover Dam here, let's go back to an earlier point and go into detail about why I had Sims side with House. I think that Sims would like a lot of what the NCR is about. He's worked with quite a few great people, ranging from Majors Daughtry and Pilati, the 1st Recon. He has great respect for Boone, and the everyday NCR troopers I think he would also have a tremendous amount of respect for. But as mentioned earlier, it's the higher-ups that really sap the wind from their sails. And judging by how poorly they've been managing things here in the Mojave, as far as Sims has been able to see, they would be a great ally, but in his mind, they're not the right choice for the Mojave. Kaisar's Legion? Obviously not. Their values go against everything a man like Lucas Sims, a Regulator, stands for. I already went into detail about how he never finds Yes Man, but even if he did, I can't see Sims pursuing that option. Reiterating an earlier point, his tale is not one of seeking fame or grandiose prestige. He just wants to make the Wasteland a better place. He wants Hardin, his son, not the Brotherhood Paladin, to grow up to live a life better than his. And I gotta say, I have become quite endeared to Sims' story here in the Mojave. Anyone watching who happens to be a parent themselves, I like to think can attest to the idea of hell hath no fury like a determined parent. And when you get right down to it, Sims grew up in the capital Wasteland. He never had any sort of big government-style figure looming overhead. And yes, I know, House is very much a form of big government, being that he is a self-described autocrat. But there's one key difference between him and the NCR which I think would win Sims over. Robert House has no interest in drafting legislature which dictates what people do in their private time. House wants to get the world back on its feet and is perfectly content to let the settlements of the Mojave govern themselves, and realistically with what he wants to do, such as reigniting the energy development sector, that would require manual labor in the form of people, so he actually would have a vested interest in protecting the Mojave. Don't forget that the free economic zone of New Vegas is far more than just the Strip. House acquires territory should he win, reaching all the way to El Dorado Substation and Helios 1. That also includes Camp McCarran. And gotta say, speaking of our protagonist, he's been doing awesome here at Hoover Dam so far. But how will he do against Legate Lanius? If it took us a hot minute to take out the Praetorians, and yeah, I was using regular rounds, trying to conserve our armor-piercing rounds. I don't know though, man. I didn't take Stonewall, I didn't buy the strength implant, so if I get knocked over, it's probably good night, Irene. So we'll go ahead and power up with the usual chems, buff out Psycho Study, all that good stuff. Go up to Lanius, take a couple of pot shots, and then it's turbo time, and well, let's hope this idea works. So far, not looking too great. Gotta apply our second turbo. Only have one left after this. And right there, inexplicably, Lanius is out of combat, allowing us to use another turbo, and, well, I guess he just ran at the sight of Lucas Sims. Either that or Lanius called Sims Calamity Jane, and we know how he feels about that from when we first meet him in Megaton. Well, we only have one veteran legionary left, and we can get the element of surprise by deploying a stealth boy and getting a completely useless level up, so let's go and bump our guns up to 100. Didn't even need max firepower to take out Legate Lanius. That feels pretty darn good. And if you're curious, I didn't want to bring Cass or any of our other companions with us because I wanted them to survive. And you know, added challenge, always nice. Now, before we have our little heart-to-heart with Oliver, gonna go and pop open our Pip-Boy with a speech of 82. Our Meeting People magazine maxes it out at 100, so when he comes out talking smack, we can call the general's bluff, and that, my friends, is good game. Once we get to the dialogue boxes here. Okay, there we go. Speech 100 bluff yet. Get out of here, Oliver. I really hope that you guys enjoyed that run. Now, just a quick heads up that there's not going to be a challenge video this coming weekend, but there are going to be plenty of episodes of our Elder Scrolls Oblivion Let's Play coming out. At the time of this video, we are 4 episodes in, and we're having a lot of fun over there. If you've got the time, I'd say pick an episode and just hop on in. Unlike the Tale of Two Wastelands Recruit Legionary run, no restrictions, just a fun, chill, casual Let's Play. But anyway, guys, thank you once again for watching. I hope you had fun with this run. See you at the next episode.